This is a very, very special day, and we welcome you. This is not the first time that we've had such an important guest as Mr. Jerry Molen. About 10 years ago, we had a faculty member named Tad Danielewski when we were struggling to get our film program started. We were struggling very, very hard. Tad had won an Emmy Award and was pretty prominent in the New York theater scene and in the New York and in the Hollywood film scene. And so when we got him here in our faculty, he was able to bring, because we're so isolated here in the mountains and we can't get sometimes the professional expertise that we need to teach, we would bring guests in. And this was all 10 years ago. And Sterling Van Wagenen helped too. And one of the first guests we brought was Mr. Frank Capra. And then, of course, Jimmy Stewart. And then Martin Ritt, director Martin Ritt. And then, lo and behold, one day we were scheduled to have Neil Simon, because Tad had worked with Neil Simon on the Sid Caesar show way back in the early days of television. But because Mr. Simon has a bad ear, his doctor wouldn't let him come to the high elevation. But in Neil Simon's style, he told Tad, well, I'll send 2 fill-ins. And we said, who? He said, never mind. You just go to the airport at this certain hour and my fill-ins will appear. And so who steps off the airplane but the odd couple? Mr. Jack Lemmon and Mr. Walter Matthau. And that gave a tremendous energy and a tremendous spark. All of those guests. Kim Hunter came, the actress Kim Hunter, Streetcar Named Desire, fame. Vivian Lee, Marlon Brando. And so our film program is now, here. We've got David, and we've got Jim back there, and we've got Pete Cherney. We've got the other members of our faculty. We've got tremendous support from the church, from President Hinckley, who wants us to turn out not films, but filmmakers, like the man we have here today. So this is the beginning of a new era. And I don't think it was by chance that John Garbett left Disney and came to Amblin. And I don't think it was by chance that 2 of our former film students, Jennifer Scudder and Brian Lake, are also connected with Amblin Entertainment. Come on in. It all just kind of happened. Would you like to have Mr. Jerry Molen come to BYU? Sure, what has he done? And then his marvelous administrative assistant, wonderful little British girl that I've only talked to on the telephone, Diana, sent me his resume. You'll see in just a minute, because we want to show you some clips that we were able to get of Mr. Molen's work. But we're beginning a new era, and this is our first guest. He happens to be from what, in my opinion, is the leading producing organization in this country, if not the world today. Working with Steven Spielberg, the work that Mr. Spielberg has done, especially on the new film, Schindler's List. And Jerry gave me this as a little gift, which I appreciate very much. It's the novel based upon the film, or the film is based upon the novel. The film is based upon the novel of Schindler's List. Jerry has brought some clips with him of Schindler's List that he'd like to share with us later on. So that's kind of long, but I wanted you to know how important this is in so many, many, many ways. We welcome Jerry's family, members of his family. We saw nieces hugging him, brothers. So we welcome them. I've asked one of our film students, Sean Jarvison, to begin today with a word of prayer, And then when we say amen, I'll turn the lights off and we'll show you the clips. And then we'll have Mr. Molen. Sean?
Search team finishes with you. We don't want anybody from this fort going into Tynan looking for rednecks.
You want to speak, sir?
Cobb?
Well, Colonel Nivens must know nobody colored killed us, sir.
Well, this is precautionary, Cobb. We can't have the Army engaged in revenge on civilians.
Sir, are there any suspects, sir?
None.
Oh, come on now. Everybody knows it was a Klan.
Were you an eyewitness, soldier? So they lynched Jefferson the week I got here. Now, 2 weeks after that...
Ensign, unless you saw it, you keep your opinions to yourself.
Yes, sir.
My grandma said to your grandma, I'm gonna set your flag on fire.
You know this car?
I know this car.
How do you know this car?
That's why you know this car. It's 1949 Buick Roadmaster, straight 8, Fireball 8, only 8,095 production models. Dad lets me drive slow on the driveway, but not on Monday. Definitely not on Monday.
Who's your dad?
Sanford Babbitt,
Sanford Babbitt?
10961 Beachcrest Street, Cincinnati, Ohio.
That's my address. I mean, what is it with this guy? Hey, who's your mother?
Eleanor Babbitt
Ellen.
died January 5th, 1965 after a short...
Who the hell are you?
Uh-oh.
Huh? Oh, wait a second. Where are you going?
15 minutes ago, walking to the People's Court.
Hold it. Wait a second here. I want to ask you a question.
But you're witnessing the real participants are not acting.
Hey, I'm talking to you.
Katie Penny, California.
Bruner.
Court.
Who is this guy?
We dismissed
Raymond is your brother.
and the disputes over here on form. People's Court.
My brother? I don't have a brother.
Split the court case and have the dispute settled here in our court, the People's Court.
Here's the pocket. It says Molen on it. Yeah, it says Molen there.
Now, Mr. Molen asked Jerry, Jerry, brother, Mr. Jerry. All right. Jerry wanted to keep this very informal. That's why we wanted you good and close. If you can't hear him, be sure you raise your hand. We've got a microphone here. Did you want to, we welcome you, Jerry. The time is yours.
Thank you. First of all, I might as well just go home after this. First of all, good morning, everybody. This is probably the most exciting thing I've done. Believe me, I'm serious. It's real special to me. I'm a very emotional type person. I'll try to keep a level here, not to show it, but it's a special time talking to Chuck on the telephone, Dr. Metten.
Chuck.
But then I found out that some of my family members were also going to be in attendance here, and that's real special to me. Like I said, it's I think it's special because today, Brother Bruce here, today he graduated from here. His wife June graduated from here. I have nieces, nephews. I have two other brothers graduated from here. Sister attended here. That's the one credit I don't get because I didn't. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come up here, because if nothing else, I can really get across to the young people here how you can kind of shortcut my career. It took me 33 years to achieve my first credit as a producer. A lot of people find it interesting, so I hope you do too. When I tell people where I started from. In 1957, fresh out of a stint in the Marine Corps, I went to work at an old studio called Republic. Back in 1957, you had to either be connected or related to get any kind of a position in the business. My stepfather was a studio driver. That door. I was managing a little company in North Hollywood. I got a phone call one day from him saying, "I'm going to go to work on Monday. I've got a call for you." "That's great, Jim, but I need to give notice." He said, "If you have to give notice, I have to tell them today there's no call." So I did a terrible thing. I gave very short notice. I took the call, and I started on this long career hauling furniture and sets in a big truck with many gear shifts that I had to learn. I worked at Republic for 2.5 years, and then in 1959 I moved to Universal. When MCA bought out Old Universal International, that was the birth of what became Universal City Studios. I worked there for 4 years as a driver in varied positions, mainly hauling horses on the old Westerns, equipment sets. And in 1963, I became assistant head of the transportation department. I did that for 4 years, became head of the department. I did that for 2 years, and then due to philosophical differences with someone there, I decided I would go my own business. I did that for 2 years. It was neither rewarding nor fun. Once you get this in your blood, it's really tough to get out. So I came back in the business in 1972, and very quickly, I was very lucky again. I always felt that there was kind of a divine hand guiding me. And I went to work as a transportation coordinator on independent films. I did that from 1972 to 1979. Again, I worked on some marvelous films, from Godfather Part 2, McHugh, Bound for Glory, Coming Home, Being There, Ordinary People. During the period of that time, I met people who I clicked with. They also took a liking to me, to my energy, my attitude, always my attitude, which has always been very good. I think it was one of the strong keys. They signed letters for me. I made applications to the Directors Guild of America, and lo and behold, once again, a miracle, they accepted me. And immediately, within 2 weeks, I went to work on my first film. It was Postman Always Wins Twice, as a production manager. In fact, I started on the picture the first day of shooting. So I not only had to read the script, break it down myself, do my own board. Back in those days, it was all by hand. That's the best way to learn, whatever nuance about it. I spent a lot of nights until 2 o'clock in the morning, and then up again at 5:30 to be the first one on the set. That was kind of my baptism of fire. But I went from there to Tootsie, and as you just saw the run, from there on, again, some marvelous films. In 1985, I met Steven Spielberg, the production manager on The Color Purple. Again, there was kind of a bond. I liked him. I loved his energy. A couple little things. I think that kind of worked out. His energy, he's a very driven man. He has now that he has a lot of children, he's gaining a lot of patience. He didn't have it in those days. That was one thing I had to kind of get around. But I loved him, and I loved his work. And to watch him as this magician on the set that he is, and his true genius. They carried me over to another film, Batteries Not Included. That was my first break, also in this business, obtaining a title as producer, as associate producer. Still production manager, but it was again a step. The end of Batteries Not Included, I was offered a script. I read a script called Rain Man. And Marty Brest was going to direct it. He sent me the script, I read it. And I couldn't put it down. I read it that night, and I held it up. I told my wife, I said, "This will win the Academy Award." fact, my wife and I were just talking about this last night. The script was one of the best scripts I've ever read. As it turned out, Marty Brest selected someone else, and I went to work with Sidney Pollack and worked on a film called Bright Lights, Big City. What I thought was going to turn out to be one of the great anti-drug statements kind of fell short. The original director was fired after 4 weeks, and they brought in another director writer. And of course, this being a director's meeting today, kind of did his way. During that time, I was in New York. I received a call from Stephen's office about a script that he had. The script was called Rain Man. Oh, that's kind of strange. I said, yes, I'll keep myself available. So at this point, my wife and I had been away from our home in Montana for 2 years. And, sorry, we were gone 2 years, went home for 2 weeks for Christmas, and then to New York with bright lights. And so we had made the decision that we would sell the house in Montana, move back to California because my career was really blossoming. And that's really something when you're over 50. So back to Los Angeles, hired a production designer and a production coordinator from Montana, sold my house, came back, and a week later, in fact, I drew 1 week's pay off of Rain Man under Steven Spielberg. He couldn't make the characters work, so he dropped it. Roughly 6 weeks later, I received a phone call from Sidney Pollack on his way home in his car, and he called me about this fantastic script he had. Called Rain Man. And I'd just been called by Norman Jewison, who wanted to produce a picture with him called January Man. And it kind of threw me off. I didn't get along with Norman Jewison too well. Just, again, difference in taste and people skills. So I really wasn't too keen on doing this, but it's a major, major draw when somebody says, I have a picture I want you to produce. So I told Sidney Pollack that I'd had a phone call from Norman Jewison. The story was, and he said, don't do anything. I think we're going to make this. I'll call you back this afternoon. He called me back that afternoon to tell me that he had decided not to do the film. It was around 4:30 in the afternoon, if I remember correctly, and I told him, I said, Sidney, I don't understand. I read the script. I think it's one of the greatest scripts I've ever read. Why are you turning it down? He went, I'll call you back. An hour and a half later, he called me with his car phone again, and he said, okay, I'm going to do it. It was Monday. He said, can we meet Wednesday morning? Yes. So I called Norman Jewison and gave him the good news. I met with Sidney. I spent 4 months with Sidney Pollack preparing for Rain Man. He decided he couldn't make the characters work, and he turned over to Barry Levinson. He also recommended my services to Barry. I met Barry. Barry said, great. And the rest of that is history. Kind of step a little farther ahead to catch up to Spielberg, I think. I tried another film in between that never did get made called 50 with Richard Dreyfuss. And once again, Stephen always had another project, always in the works, always looking for something for Jerry Molen. And this is kind of special. I think maybe that's why I have a special feeling for this guy. And he had a script called The Curious Case of Benjamin Button that Tom Cruise was going to star. So we kind of put my services on hold when it finished this picture. And which was Days of Thunder. And in the Days of Thunder, I took some time off. I got a phone call one day telling me to bring me up to date with the script that Stephen, Tom, were still working on. And could I hold out a little longer? Not a problem. And then one Sunday, I received a phone call from Kathy Kennedy who said, all bets are off on Benjamin Button's script. Stephen just read the book. We want you to produce it. I said, okay. She said, we need you to start right away, immediately. I went, whoa, wait a minute. What does that mean immediately? She said, well, can you be in the office tomorrow? And I said, no, I cannot. I said, I'm leaving Thursday morning for the coast of Oregon for a family reunion. And I won't miss it. tell you what, send me the script, allow me to read it, we'll talk by telephone, we'll stay in touch, and I'll be back in the following week. The rest of that is basically history. During the course of prepping for Hook, Stephen came to me and asked me if I would take over the production slot at Amblin, since Frank Marshall was going to leave and do his own thing, the director of his own film. I thought about it for a week. Here again, I was going to get pigeonholed, but they made me an offer really I couldn't refuse, because it allowed me to not only sit in that wonderful, wonderful environment called Amblin. A couple people here like Mark, the young man here. Let's see, anyway, a couple people have been to Amblin, so they understand, I think, what it is. But it also gave me the chance to produce any film that Stephen directed, and either produce or executive produce any and every film that Amblin made. You can't beat that. Once again, like I said, not like a divine hand. Jurassic Park, I'm sure all of you are aware, just as of this last weekend, have reached 845 million in box office. I'm very proud of it. But equally as proud, and maybe my finest moment in this business would be having my name attached to a film that's yet to come out. It's called Schindler's List. Just very briefly, has anyone in the room heard of it? Okay, great. How many have read it? Couple, good, okay. It's tough to read. It's also going to be equally as tough to see. It's the first rated R movie that Stephen's ever done. And it was tough getting the R rating. We have a film that was made under the Amblin banner, just digress just for a second, because I want to clarify something. We did a film, it hasn't been released yet, but what it is, if you notice the Amblin name on it, it's fine. You won't see mine. I'm very careful about that. But this film, Schindler's List, with its very graphic violence, nudity, language, that has everything in it that I'm against. But in this case, I'm for. The reason is because I want everyone to see the film. The Holocaust, this film is not about the Holocaust. The Holocaust is the background. The film is about a man named Oskar Schindler, who was a German businessman. In 1939, went to Krakow, Poland, to expand his business. And that's all his concern. Over the years, as things progressed, and he realized what the Nazis were doing in Poland and the Eastern European part of the world, what he saw became repugnant to him. And he had made a fortune. I mean, suitcases of German marks. He even, at one point, moved, talked to his I won't call him his friend, but person he befriended because he had to, and was the commandant of Plaszow, which is a concentration camp just outside Krakow. Because this man allowed him to hire Jews. And he hired Jews in the beginning because it saved him money. He only had to pay 7 marks a day, and even then, that money went to the German Reich. It didn't go to the Jews that worked in the factories. And the Polish worker cost 9 marks a day. So he started out strictly from a business sense, but in the end, took his fortune and bought as many as he could, moved them to a new factory in Czechoslovakia to try to protect what became Schindler's Jews. In the end, he had nothing except the knowledge in his heart that he had done what was right. So, I implore each of you to see the film. And like I say, it'll be tough because it probably goes against the grain of everything you've been taught, raised, all your moral standards. But if we get enough of you out there, maybe we won't have Bosnians going on tomorrow or next year. Because when they talk about this thing, the Holocaust, we constantly hear it can never happen again. I'm sorry, but it is. So personally, that's why I say I'm name on the movie, and I want the world to see it. Hopefully, maybe it'll be graphic enough and strong enough that the images will sear the brain. People won't forget. Last night I picked up a trailer. In fact, I brought two of them. And if we could, maybe this time, yeah, I'd like if we could show these, and then I'll. Let's show the. You can have them.
Today is history. Today will be remembered. For 6 centuries there has been a Jewish backup. By this evening, those 6 centuries are a rumor. They never happened.
I'm looking for Itzhak Stern. Are you Itzhak Stern or not?
By law, I have to tell you, sir, I'm a Jew.
Well, I'm a German.
The standard SS rate for Jewish skilled laborers is 7 marks a day. You pay the Reich Economic Office. The Jews themselves receive nothing.
You make a fortune, don't you think?
I think most people right now have other priorities.
Like what?
He likes women. He likes good-looking women.
Well, yes, better this month than last.
Yes.
Any reason to think next month will be worse?
The war could end.
I came to work the other day. Everybody's gone.
They're not gone. They're here.
Why are you in the way? He's a guy like this. They should be on my train.
You want these people?
These people, my people, I want my people.
Who are you, Moses?
They say your factories are heathen. They say you are good.
Who says that?
Everyone.
How many? 600.
All you have to do is tell me what it's worth to you. What's a person worth?
No. What's one worth to you? The least.
His life. Stillman and his wife, Max.
In a time when there was no limit to evil.
Stegel, Paul Stegel, Dr. Ferdinand.
No end to murder.
Fischer, Ishmael Fischer.
One man drew a line.
The children, all the children.
A line as deep as compassion, as fragile as courage. A line as long as Schindler's List.
I want all of them, yes, sir.
Liam Neeson, Ben Kingsley, a film by Steven Spielberg. Schindler's List.
Steve Zalian. We're hearing a lot about. Who was a script that Steve fell in love with. And I, as producer, my main function basically is to keep Stephen's plate clean and give him a menu to draw from. So the extras, the costumes, the sets, everything else. What I try to do is create the environment for him to work in. I think my prey will be his Oscar, because he deserves it. And the film will be out very, very narrow. September 15th will be the release date, I think, in LA, New York. And then maybe a couple weeks later in Hawaii. And then probably still rather limited, 500-600 prints, where the norm is around 2,000 in January. So we'll see. I want to open this up to questions and answers, because that's the form that I really like best. I think people learn a lot more rather than listening to somebody. But I came here for two reasons. Number one, because, as I said earlier, it gave me a deep sense of privilege and honor to come here. The second was basically to interact with you, students. After my illustrious career, at least now I feel that I have the right to call myself a filmmaker. It took me 33 years to get my first credit as a producer. You don't have to wait that long. You can shortcut that. Basically, it falls into attitude, dedication to purpose, and what I have come to believe strongly in is a setting of goals for where you're going. If you believe you can, or you can't, you're right. I want to see this school special. And I'll say this now, I haven't said it before to the good Dr. Metten, but I will come back anytime if I can help. Right now, the world, more than ever, needs you. It's pretty tough to pick up a newspaper any time of the week. You look at the menu you have to draw from. Be very careful. It's really tough for me because I have two small grandchildren. And even though my son is very, very, very cautious about films, there are other times where a picture will end up getting even a PG rating. It's maybe just over the edge. And I have sources where I can find out so that my grandchildren should see it and turn and tell my son. But we need more film. This is the most beautiful medium of communication that we have in the world today. Because it's where someone can go sit in a theater for 2 hours. In this case, this film's going to be 3 hours and 13 minutes with credits. But it's where you can go and submerge yourself and allow yourself to enjoy the moment, to allow your imagination to get away from maybe the rigor of the days. But we need product, and we need good product. And it's not just the filmmaker. I'm also looking for future executives, people to run the studios, to make the decisions about what films get made. And then they in turn can pass the baton to the filmmaker to fulfill their goals. So I think I have a message that I came here basically to give all of you is to say, number one, you're way ahead of me because of your presence here today. I didn't have the blessing of a formal education. You will. When I tell you that it will cut through, the producer of the film Flintstones will be out next summer is 32. He's a young man that I've kind of helped nurture in his career. young man that's now producing the film Casper. We're just going to start filming in January. He's around 33. He started out as an editor. But again, film school background. To those of you out here that are future writers, I have to tell you, it's an observation only, and I think most people in the business today will agree, but writing is the fastest way to direct it. It's also the best way to control your product. Anyway, let's open up for questions and answers.
This wasn't scripted. I mean, this is coming from the man's heart. And you're saying what I prayed this morning to say, Jerry.
Here's something. I agonized last night, making notes. You have to understand something. I told Mark from here in the car today, I was really nervous. This is not my form. I'm really not. It's not my thing to get in front of people and even try to be a public speaker. Because I'm certainly not. But I just looked at the first page. I haven't looked at them. I mean, yes, it is from the heart. I mean it. I'm so happy to be here. I think that's why. Anyway.
Okay, good and loud. First question, real loud.
You stated earlier that it was difficult to get the R rating for this film. Were you searching for one, or?
Yes.
Why?
Searching for an R.
Why were you searching
because
for
we didn't want an NC-17.
So you wanted it lower?
Yes.
Got it.
The problem is this. In the rating system, if you see someone get shot, that's R. If you see the bullet exit, or the aftermath of the bullet exiting, that's NC-17. As I said, the movie is very graphic. And it's very graphic for a specific reason. People have to understand the ugliness of what it was.
Thank you.
The horror and the terror.
Yes, sir, Brent.
I was curious, how do you feel?
Aloud.
How do you feel about the rating system right now? And do you think it will change for the better or the worse in the future? Or stay? There's a lot of problems with it.
Did you get the question in the back? All right. Thank you.
How do I feel about it? It depends. I have mixed emotions because it never seems to be constant. No, I'm not satisfied with it. I'd like to see it applied to television in some ways. I don't know how you do that. The problem, and I don't want to get off on tangents on all these, but forgive me if I do. I know we don't have much time. But the problem is there's a great motivator, let me put it, behind this whole thing, and that's greed. It's whatever sells. It's whatever sells fastest, whatever sells best. Go ahead.
But with the movies that have come out lately, the top-selling movies of all time have been movies, Steven Spielberg's films that haven't been rated R. They've been like E.T., Home Alone, even Jurassic Park wasn't that bad. It was,
Well, if you look at all the top 10 films, you'll find Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. I mean, they control most of them. So 1 out of 500 films a year. Steven may do one. George may do one. George has been doing one every 3 or 4 years. So yes, their pictures reflect that you can do it. That's why I'm admonishing each of you out there. Come on, let's do the same thing. Let's go after that kind of film. You can. You can create the emotions and
so it's that hard to come up with a quality film?
Question right here and then over there. No good and loud.
Okay, sorry. You said that it's clear how you feel about communicating language and stuff, but to what extent are those things shared by other people in Hollywood? Are you very much a minority? Seriously, that you're a minority in Hollywood?
Yes, I am very much a minority. But again, I happen to work for a man who I really feel has the same taste. Maybe not totally. I would venture to say there are certain things that appear on the screen. Schindler's Lists. In the final cut, I haven't seen it. In the film twice. I have not seen it. A little tiny bit of color is added. And the music. One thing I went to Stephen specifically, this form doesn't matter, but specifically, I told him I didn't think it worked, I didn't like it, and I didn't think it should be a film. I don't know if it is or not, I won't know until I see it. Yeah, I'm a minority. I really am. But there still are those. But it's for them getting their films made, that's what's tough. Because you have to understand, there's 1,000 scripts a day coming into Hollywood. And they're all looking for that film to be Jurassic Park. They don't care what it is.
Right over here.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit about your work, what you're doing, and aspects of it you enjoy?
Get the question over there. They can't hear you. Real loud.
Can you explain a little bit about your work, on the things that you're doing, and aspects of your work you enjoy?
Well, I think the last part first. What I enjoy most is that the beautiful thing about this business is no two films are the same. So there's no pressure of going to work and doing the same thing, even though the function is the same. The project is the same. So the material that you're reading or you're working with, you put together is different. Specifically, what do I do? My job is twofold. As head of production for Amblin Entertainment, once they deliver a script to me that comes out of development, they have decided with Stephen who the writer's going to be, then I have my function as to hire the producer to get a budget against the script, to get a schedule, reverse that schedule, and then start getting done whatever assistance I can to the producer and starting to put a team together in concert with the director. As I said earlier, it is the director's medium. I'm doing that right now on a little picture that we made do out of New York. And the director is an English director. His name is Yvonne Kidron. He did a film called Use People. I haven't seen it, but I'm having difficulty satisfying her with the producer. That's part of what's going on right now. That's on the so-called executive level at Amblin. Just to add to this, I think to assist the filmmaker would be the easiest way for me to describe what I do. The other side of the coin is my producing a film. As I said, it's Stephen. His next picture coming up looks like will be Bridges in Madison County. I don't know where I am with that one yet. I'll wait till I read the script and I'll make a decision. But I'm certainly in line to produce that with Kathy Kennedy. Kathy is still attached to it. She helped develop it. We got the rights to it sometime ago. So she and I will work in concert again to set, once Stephen has okayed and signed off on the script, and it'll be our job to start feeding him what he needs to get the creative forces to work, such as dealing with the production designer. And Stephen's a great delegator. Once the person has Stephen's vision, then that person will be able to go out and start drawing storyboards and dealing with the costume designer. And as people come aboard, in each one of those instances, it'll be still my function to be there and act like the referee sometimes. When the impossible task comes up, that's what they call me. And sometimes those are fun and sometimes they're really not. Depends on where you have to run the interference to. I hope that answers your question.
Well, what do you have to do with casting?
I don't have a
What
lot.
do you have to do with casting?
I don't have a lot.
I've got my resume right here. Yes, sir, right over there.
As a minority and as beginners, how do you get your foot in the door in a place like Amblin?
You mean minority what?
Minority in like our beliefs.
You mean because we're Mormons?
Yep.
Now what's the question again?
And how do you get your foot in the door in a place like Amblin?
Well, right now we have Jennifer Scudder, who's a graduate of BYU. She's working in Amblin as a production assistant. John Garbett, I took him away from Disney, hired him to produce a film called Pet People. It's a beginning. Everything has to have a start. To answer your question, how to go about it, you have to send the resumes. I got to be very honest. I mean, we deal with this. Let me say this: we do it on a one-on-one basis. I think maybe the people here might have a little bit of an edge in the door because of me, and I happen to be there. That doesn't guarantee people jobs. I've got to be honest with you, because there's also Stephen. There's also Stephen's wife. There's also other people in executive positions at Amblin who, like for example, the guy that's going to take over as president, Walter Parks. He's a Yaler. So I'm sure that we're going to have that to deal with. But at least there is a representative at Amblin to help in the process. As I look back on it, now I can sit here and say, hey, it was great, it was fun. To be very honest, it was terrifying. I think the funniest story is Rain Man, because that was the one screen experience. You know, I had more time with the screens. And when the film was cut, you didn't see it all. It really upsets me. Well, we were in Cincinnati, Ohio, prepping the movie. It was Friday night, prior to filming, on Monday morning. The one part that still hadn't been cast was Dr. Lenz, as he was known in the original script. This was on a Friday afternoon. That evening, Friday evening, Glenn Ford was coming in, another actor from the West Coast and 2 actors from the East Coast. And I walked down the hall to go in my office. And at the next office, standing out in the hall, was Barry Levinson, Dustin Hoffman, and his wife Lisa. I'd seen Dustin a few days before in a wardrobe fitting, but I saw his wife Lisa and I hadn't seen her since Tootsie. So this was fate, because I walked down to say hello to her. And that's what started it. I walked up, gave her a kiss on the cheek, said, how are you? Dustin started telling Barry about how on Tootsie he used to refer to me as Gene, Gino, Hacker, because there was something about my voice or something in my voice that reminded him of his early roommate, Gene Hacker. And he said, and I'll never forget this because I don't handle this kind of stuff well anyway, he said, in fact, this is the kind of a voice that you need for Dr. Lenz. And I went, yeah, right, sure. Got the conversation going. And he said, he did one of these numbers, you know, it went like this. It got right around in my face. He said, no, Barry, look at this guy. Look at him, he'd be perfect. So then Barry did this little number too. And my face was as red as the chair. My mouth went to cotton. Anyway, Dustin begged me, coerced me, whatever, to go into Barry's office at the door and read lines. I knew this one guy was going to get rid of him. So we read through one 2-page sequence. And he said, okay, let's do it one more time. And this time he said, just do it natural. Don't wait for him to finish a sentence. Step on the line. Let's just go for it. I said, sure, right. I really know what I'm doing. So we did it again. And he just stood there looking at me. This funny look on his face. He said, I gotta get Barry. I said, for what? He said, just humor me, please, just humor me. So we went to Barry.
Surprise. 53 minutes. It's under now. Well, because I was told it was going to be so sad.
There are ways to find the satisfaction that we're all looking for, that we're in the right place, that we're doing the right thing, and we can find that satisfaction if we really commit ourselves there. What he's saying is what we need to hear. We need to learn the technical, and we need to know what we're doing, but we need to have that drive to stick with it and accomplish our goals, even though we're going to face a lot of opposition. For example, in his career he started as a driver, but he made that the most important task that he could do. And he built that up to where he wouldn't listen to what everyone was saying around him. He made it the most important thing. And by doing that, people wanted him to help them in other areas, and he was able to move up. And that's where we need to be. We need to have that passion and that drive if we want to find and make this art a part of our lives and a part of our ability to find happiness and to help others, or to do whatever we want to do with the medium of film.
You want to add to that or
Nothing to add.
respond to that, Jared?
I could sit here and beat it to death. I just can't, stress enough how important it is to get an education. And the education that you get here just isn't what you learn in the books, but it's what you learn at home. And those are the values. That's one reason why I'm here today. Those are the values that have to be taken out into the arena, so to speak. Because the world, the communities, the families, they desperately need it right now. We need, out of this class, we need executives running the networks. We need executives running the studios. Again, we can't do without education. It's on your shoulders, and you can get lucky. A lot of my career, I'm sure a lot of it's luck. As the young man just said, a lot of it also was that desire to create something a little bit better. For me and my family, I knew I had to do maybe something a little bit more if I wanted to move into a different neighborhood, or to make sure I had enough money for my kids to go to school. It's important. It's about desires, and each of you inside have to find, your own niche. You have to decide what you want to do, and there's a way to get there. I'm a strong believer in that you can, and you just have to go for it. And when you get into an environment, take it upon yourself to make the environment better. Don't get in people's way. Don't make a nuisance of yourself. When you get into a particular situation, whether you're a production assistant or you're working as a writer's assistant or an agent's assistant, look around you and decide for yourself what it is that you could do to make this particular situation better. And you will be noticed.
Okay. Let's pick up where we left off. Yes, sir, Bryce.
Mr. Molen, speaking of education, what are the possibilities of our school setting up with Amblin a sort of internship, a program where we can send students to work with you?
Internships, they used to do that a lot. There's a certain liability now, and basically it falls under workman's comp. In California, workman's comp situation is rather crucial. A person basically has to be on salary. Amblin, the problem there is Stephen is such a high-profile individual. He's a target for everything, good and bad. And in this world we live in today, a lot of the bad. And that's the sad thing, because it does tend to stem certain things we might be able to do. The closest thing that we have to it is, were you there this morning?
I was there. I was there for about 40 minutes.
Right. Well, we have a program there where we have 8, 10, 12, 14, depending on how busy we are, production assistants who work within the Amblin system. And they do everything. They do every little dirt job. I mean, it's what I call, maybe paying your dues, starting at the bottom. But it really gives people a chance to look and see what they really like to do. Whether it's into the art department, whether it's to continue writing or to become a director or a producer or an editor, because all those avenues are there. It's very important. Once a person becomes focused on a particular thing, they should have that desire to want to go forward with it. Because the sad thing is, really the sad thing is to find yourself 20 years from now or 30 years from now not liking what you do.
Thank you.
And way in the back. Yes, sir.
With respect to the education issue, what I got out of your first session, which I enjoyed, I might add, is that the education that you get at this institution, or one comparable if there are any, is that it gives you staying power. I think in Hollywood, it's very important to become your own person. And the person with an education who comes out of an institution like this is going to have a leap over, as you likened it to, the producer's nephew that got where he is because of who he knew. And of course, that business thrives on that to some degree, but I think, as we all know, producers come and go. And if your career is tied to someone else, you're in jeopardy. You need to become your own person, and education gives you a big advantage. Become your own person.
No, you're right. Education, what it does, it gives you a foundation. It gives you a base from which not only to grow, but to expand.
Chris.
Yes, sir.
Turn loud so they can hear.
You talked about your role as a producer on Schindler's List and the different things you had to do in order to help keep Mr. Spielberg's plate clean. How were those roles that you played in Schindler's List different from normal roles you would play as a producer? And
it's not.
Could you talk about that? It wasn't.
It's not. No, it's no different than what I normally do. I just use that because that happens to be the last film, you know, that we work on together. Now, that's my role, basically, is to create an atmosphere for him to work with him. I basically handle the business side, so that he doesn't have to deal with deals with actors, writers, the hiring of the crew, the logistics, budgets, scheduling. There's a production manager that kind of fills in there too, and we work basically side by side with the production manager. I think the producer's role goes one step higher. You come to work one day and you've got an actress that's been out of shape because her hair doesn't match what they filmed 3 days before, and it does. That's a real problem. So somebody has to kind of go in and smooth that out. And those are really the areas that I don't like. But it's a must. Dealing with the studio, people put up the money, keeping them separate from Steve.
Right here.
I have a question about the basic trend of Hollywood.
I can't hear you in the back.
Oh, I'm sorry. A question about the basic trend Hollywood has about kind of looking at the 60s for their ideas. Beverly Hillbillies, Abs Family, The Fugitive, and next year we have the Flintstones that I think Amblin introduced. And what do you think's going on? Is Hollywood just following the basic retro trend of society at the moment, or is there baby boomers, are they coming up and and they're controlling and they're making the films that they like? So basically that's the sitcoms of the 60s.
No, I think somebody, I don't know, I really don't know which film it was, without sitting down and really thinking about it, but here in the last few years, somebody did a remake of something. And it was very successful. Boom, the door was open. So then I started searching around. I mean, it's going on all the time. We had a meeting yesterday talking about films that had been successful in their time. But, for example, one before everybody's room, Chuck and I, there was a film called Big Country. And MGM would love to see Steven remake that movie. So there's a big trend in remakes. There's a big trend in going after what was successful in the 60s. Not just the 60s, we're doing Little Rascals. And again, this is another, I don't know how many of you grew up on Gangs. Yeah, Alfalfa and Spanky and that whole group. So we're going to test that. We're also going to do Casper, Come and Go. Live action with the animated ghost. So yeah, there is that trend. Why? I don't know. It's working. It's selling. And as far as Casper and the Flintstones, Little Rascals, I'm all for it because it's great family entertainment.
Do you think it shows maybe a lack of new ideas among screenwriters? Could that be one of the problems, or is that not a...
No, I don't think so. I don't look at it that way. What I look at is we have a whole new generation now. The 60s, that's 30 years ago. So those people that were exposed to those films or cartoons during that time, they were successful. Why not show them again to people that weren't exposed to it?
Just like this. Right in the back there. Yes, sir.
Another trend which seems to be obvious right now is the merger of documentary and feature films. And we're seeing Hollywood suddenly leaving the set and going into the real world. That's where the documentary filmmakers work. Do you see this as a trend that will continue based on live stories, based on natural settings, and using the capacity of a totally different brand of filmmakers?
Personally, I can only give you a personal observation on it. I personally don't like it. I don't need to see the real blood and guts. Schindler's List is done in a documentary style, but for a purpose, which I think is a little different. What I see, if I'm understanding your question, what I see more now is like on television, where they're using that documentary style. Say some hiring actors, they got a narrator, and they got a camera crew that follows around. They're like ambulance chasers. And they do that, they've got crews out doing that in the major cities. It's not tough in downtown Los Angeles, Philadelphia, New York to find some grit going on in the streets.
Maybe, I mean, that is also, people think that documentary means running around with a camera, which is jumping, shaking, then you're really doing a good job. I don't mean really that. I mean, Hoffa, for example, you base your story on a true person or a true story. Or River Runs Through It, you actually film it out in the real nature instead of painting it on your back wall. That is also what I regard as documentary filmmaking. Or
oh, okay. Well, I understand what you're saying. No, I wouldn't read that as a documentary. That is a style that's been around for a long time. If you take a major filmmaker, whether it be Sidney Pollack or Steven Spielberg, Barry Levinson, it doesn't matter. They're going to go. For example, next summer, if Steven does Bridges in Madison County, we will film it in Madison County.
Johnny, yeah.
Yes, two-part question. I hear a rumor that Harrison Ford has been approached for another Indiana Jones. Would you confirm or deny that? And secondly, Steven does quite a few effects-oriented pieces. How do you go about, as a producer, approaching that?
Well, the first part of that, has Harrison Ford been approached? This is being recorded?
I'm not filming.
Turn it off.
No, it's off. So that's an answer, that's fine.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I think he has. And yes, there will be an Indy 4. I'm sorry, now the rest of your question.
The effects-oriented pieces, how do you approach that as a producer?
Well, today, very, very carefully, because, you know, what was true yesterday isn't really true today, and certainly won't be true tomorrow. And what I mean by that is, Jurassic Park is a good example, and I think I touched on that this morning. We started out with the idea that we were going to use certain types of technology in putting the film together. Before we rolled the camera, we were introduced to a whole new process,
right?
Or an improved process, to the point where we had something to create through CGI, sorry. And it gave us a whole new world that we had. Now that same science is now going to be applied to Casper, and I'm speaking just from within the walls of Amblin. There are now new houses, Jim Cameron, Stan Winston, and a guy named Scott Ross, who used to be general manager of ILM. They've all joined forces. They formed a new company. They're going to be doing that. There's several other companies already in Hollywood that have the brand new computers and are waiting for some new technology at this particular time, because it's going to make them faster, because they're going to be able to give Hollywood something. And some of it scares me, to be frank, because they're going to be able to generate real scary things. Can you imagine what they can do? I mean, they could literally place he and I in Russia
Yeah, that's an interesting. I was in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago and visited Phil Tippett. They actually have a little bit of fear, you know, even though they are part of this new technology, because they worked on Jurassic. They do have a fear of where it's going, what will it mean to their future job, and they also tell me, you know, about Lucas trying to get to the point where you can do digital sets where people can be on a set.
Right. That's the part that kind of scared me. But you know something? There's an upside to it all. I personally think that it'll be tough to convince Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, for example, to stand in front of a blank blue screen and react to what's supposed to be. I mean, they get so involved in the emotion of the moment. Tom is the consummate actor. He's not alone. I think most of your actors are like that. Sure, they're going to be able to do certain things that way. One example was George Lucas on a television series that he did called The Chronicles of Young Indy. They were filming in Europe, someplace. And there's a particular scene where young Indy is surrounded by hordes of cowboys. So they put 12, 14 guys into their Western costumes. And they had them ride in a particular angle. Cut. Go back out, change hats. Up, move them over. Same cuts. Change positions. There's a 6, whatever, 5 cuts, 6 cuts. So when you saw it on the screen, it looked like young Indy was surrounded by 500 or 400, whatever, and it was 12 guys, 14 guys. So that's also, that basically helps, you know, the process. Oh, of course. Richard.
You talked about Tom Cruise having baggage going with him, and you talked about the negative connotation in your heart about agents. What are some of, and that you run interference for Spielberg, what is the power of the deals, the packages? What kind of experience have you had with that? You want some actor and all of a sudden his agent says, well, you have to take so, so, and so along with him if you're going to use him, stuff like that. Is that happening? What is that atmosphere?
At the camera. Now this is another area that gets a little touchy too, because I mean, I don't mind telling you, but I don't want it to end up on somebody's desk without, you know, having the background for what's going on. Because I want to be as frank as I can. And what experiences have I had? Well,
yeah,
like,
I mean that's a lot better to say than what is Hollywood doing.
Well, okay, let me give you an example. Let's use. Well, let me do it this way. I use a hypothetical actor. I won't use any name. Okay. Yeah, I think that would probably be the best way to do it. We're going to use John Smith in a film. One of the largest stars in the world. Right away, you know that you're dealing with, let's say, a minimum of an 8 to 10, 12, maybe $15 million price tag just in salary.
Just for him.
Yeah. Just for him. Now, baggage, particular makeup, and a particular hair person, who then are in a position to negotiate a better deal for themselves. Not particularly what's budgeted, but a better deal. And you don't want to tick off Tom. Oh, I'm sorry. John. John. Brother, I was saying that. Then there's a motorhome that's maybe been purchased by the actor and designed and put together. It's his expense. I mean, he paid for it, but then you rent it from him. That's one. No longer can that multi-mega star fly, even first class in an airplane. Now has to fly in a private jet. just a quick difference on that. If you're going to fly New Orleans, say for example, round trip, first class, let's say it's $3,000. It's probably $35,000 for a private jet. And that's to get him there. I'm talking about the number of trips it's going to take for the nanny, maybe the wife's mother, his mother. The plane's going back and forth weekly at $35,000 a shot. That's part of the baggage. A trainer. Got to have somebody there to keep him in tone. So there's somebody there, and maybe even with some, where they have to have their particular workout equipment out of their house. That means that you go get a truck, go to his house, get some people to take it all apart, load it in a truck, take it to a location, and have a place that's not inconvenient to that person to work out. Okay? Plus the trainer that's got to be there. And there's a specific diet this person is on, maybe to go along with the workout. That requires a specific chef. You get the message?
Yeah, I was thinking more along of agents and packages and baby.
Well, wait, before we get on to that, then why don't you get another actor? Why do you insist on keeping that actor with all of that baggage then? I understand that. I understand acting enough to know that there are certain things that an actor's got to have, certain routines.
But it's gone
overboard.
It's too far over the top. It's ridiculous now to where all that, with the negative of the film is bearing that cost. And it makes it very difficult because if there's X to spend on a movie, and the studio says that's it, you're going to find it someplace. You know, it's terrible to go to the grip or the electrician and say, gee guys, I'm sorry, but I got to take $1 an hour away from it. I know people that do that, and it's really stupid and totally counterproductive. I'll tell you why it's stupid. $1 an hour, if figured out, on a 12-hour day, it's about $70 a week. It's certainly not going to break the bank if you're flying somebody in a private jet. If you multiply that out times 5 guys, I mean, you're not talking about a tremendous amount of money. Because the shooting period of a movie is going to be 10, 12, maybe 14 weeks, depending on the show. So there's a tremendous imbalance there where you're not getting what you should to put on the screen other than that particular face. The key is that person is such a box office draw. That's the key, and it all boils down to the buck. So they continue giving it. The problem is, once you do it for that person, that agency, they see this. Oh, well, look, they got that for John, I can get this for Joe. Because you got to remember, the agents are getting 10%. So whatever they get for this person, there are producers in studios, people that work behind pulling the string at a studio. Or a studio will say, I'll tell you what I'll do. The film's budgeted at $16 million. We're going to give you another $7 because we want this actor and this actress helping us make the film. It's putting in 2 people they feel are box office. And in the end, they feel are going to bring patrons into the theater. And in some cases, they're right. But for me personally, I think it's a terrible thing that's going on right now because it makes it very, very difficult to do a movie. But not to belabor this, but I'm going to give you an idea. And I'll use Jurassic Park because there was really no talent in it, so I'm going to take this to the other side. I didn't mean it that way. I'm talking about the big bucks because their deals were negotiated in such a way is they got a little piece on the back, they deferred some money to keep the negative cost down. But the studio had given an edict that movie would not cost over $55 million. When I came to work at Amblin, I inherited this. The first budget was like 85. Then it went to 82. And they kept making cuts. But at that time, we followed the book closer, and there was a lot more dinosaurs. So we kept eliminating dinosaurs and kept bringing the cost down. When it got to the point, it was around $62 million. And I was told that anything over 55, Steve was personally responsible for. Well, I'm not gonna be the one to go in his office and say, here it is, it's gonna cost you X. I'm gonna do everything I can to make this work, that's my job. It finally got down to where we were just over 60. I couldn't break it. I couldn't, no matter what I did. I couldn't break it. So I got this rainy idea. Again, what I mentioned earlier, something different. So I took the associate producer with me and we went up to the facilities department. You better not take this either. Sorry. Only because I could get somebody in trouble for this. But I went to the facilities department and I said, we have a problem here. You're aware that there's been an edict out that we can only spend X on this movie. 55 million. Yeah. But we're not there yet. And I need your help. We're basically partners. You're the studio, the filmmaker. At some point, the studio's going to rake in all this money, hopefully at that time. What do you have to do? And I said, well, you've given me a quote for the stages that we need. This was on the stages. And I said, with our 25% discount, it comes to $1.3 million. That's how much the studio was going to charge us against the negative for the 7 stages that we wanted to use. I said, let me ask you a question. That's with a 25% discount because we're Amblin, right? I said, yeah. I said, what if I was Pete Murphy walking off the street? Could I get that same 25%? I said, well, yeah. I said, okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you $800,000. He said, we've never done that before. I said, I know. I'll give you $800,000. That's all I'm going to give you. You guys can step to the plate too. I've gone to the crew. I've gone to every other vendor. And now I'm coming to you. He said, well, I'll have to take it to committee. Okay, when are you going to call me? So he called me the next day and he said, the best we can do is $900,000. And I'm sitting there, and in fact, we just happened to have a little meeting with this guy called me. We were all kind of anxiously awaiting this call. And I looked and I got a big grin on my face and I said, send the contract. Because I knew right there that I'd save $400,000. I wasn't going to let him off the hook. I said, I'll work out a PO, a purchase order, right now. Send me the contract. Knowing that I had just accomplished that, we had a $900,000 electrical and grip fit. 7 stages, lights hanging all over. It's very expensive, especially when you're paying by the day. So I went to the electrical department. I said, this is the deal. This is what we need. You know what? You've seen the stages? I'll give you $350,000 for everything. I made the deal. Knowing that I'd done this with the studio, I then went to Panavision. That's why I don't want this taped. I went to Panavision and I gave them the same story. I said, we're not going to make this film unless I give it. They stepped to the plate for over $100,000. They'd never done it before, and they were talking about a Steven Spielberg film with a budget that was astronomical by anyone's standard. But they still helped the tune of $100,000. In the end, we got it. The figure I told this morning, $59,680,000. That's what I walked into Stephen and Kathy Kenny and I said, this is what the picture's going to cost. They knew just by reading my face that I was sincere. A couple questions that I signed off, that was it. Called the studio and said, renegotiate my deal because this is what the picture is. Now that's the one side. That's taking into consideration the cost of a very technical film. The money was well spent as what's happened is testament. On the other hand, you can spend the money for an actor or an actress, as the case is. And what you can end up with is nothing. Because the gamble is, you're gambling that those two people, there's going to be a chemistry between them. And the best example that I can give you on chemistry not working is the movie Havana. Cost over $40 million to make. Everything but the right intent. And the gentleman up here that was talking about locations and going out and doing it right. Couldn't go to Havana at that time, so went to Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic, which is the same place Godfather Part 2 went, because they're so alike, Havana and Santo Domingo. So Sidney Pollack insisted on going down there. The picture made $9 million. $9 million. I mean, it's an embarrassment. You can't even bring the word up in front of Cindy. So my point is that chemistry didn't work, so the gamble. And do you know what Redford must have gotten paid? I don't know. But I do know that he got the camera off. I do know that Redford got paid $7.5 million for legal fees.
Which was another chemistry.
Great, right? So I would imagine that he got a minimum of 8 at least. Because it's always more. It's always got to be more. Always got to be a raise. So it's a problem, and it's a problem where, again, it's why I have a problem. And maybe I shouldn't be so verbal about it's going to come back to bite me, I'm sure. Or I'll be talking to somebody about it. But that's okay too, because I've done that. But I have a little bit of a problem with the way the agency system works. We've got to the point now to where they are all powerful.
Okay, that's
from a filmmaker's point of view, we were lucky. When I say that from a filmmaker's point of view, we were lucky. That's sort of not the case for the people that live there. We had 1 day left. In fact, that Friday was supposed to be our last day. And I got the call at 4:30 in the morning. The production manager called me to say one of the drivers had just called him, said he wasn't coming in. He was battening down the hatches. He said, I turned on CNN. You better turn it on, Sharon, and call me back. 4:30 in the morning. I went and turned it on, and when I turned it on, the image on the screen was an arrow, a line, because they had it on, headed right up, and at that time it was headed between Kauai and Oahu. Oy, oy. Okay? So I listened to what the guy had to say a little bit, that's the direction it was traveling. Knowing about the local driver who had called in, who certainly knew a lot more about it than I did, possibly the weatherman and the production manager, I called Kathy Kennedy. I said, turn on the television. We've got a problem, we've got to shut down. I said, we got to get this thing in some kind of an order because it's not looking good. So she called me back 3 minutes later and she said, right on, go for it, whatever you need, just do it. So we just put everything into a mode. And as the time went on, it kept showing that it was going to get worse because now it was veering more towards Kauai. And what we did is, if you're going to be trapped someplace, it's nice to be trapped with a film company. We pulled our generator down, ran cables and lights in. So we had power for like air conditioning fans to keep it. When you get 200 people in a room maybe this size, after a while it gets a little punky. Then we have craft service. We also backed that truck. We unloaded all of our soft drinks, all of our water. And we set up tables so that we had ongoing food. We sent everybody out to pick up a chaise lounge. And then to their rooms, because this time they had elevators. Then they went to get a blanket and a pillow. Because we had no idea how long we'd be there, and if it did come and hit straight, but then they were talking about the wind being 180 miles an hour, which is devastation. And we took a big meeting room in the bottom of the hotel. Basically away from everybody else in the hotel. And we were self-contained. So when it hit, you bet it was scary. It was a little nerve-wracking time. For me, maybe a little more only because I had so many people I was responsible for. And you think of that. Are we making the right decision? What about this? What about that? At that point, you don't care about the film. You can't. The next morning, Kathy, we went out that night after the wind stopped. We went out there. The devastation was mind-blowing. Elevators were out, power was out in the island. The rest is history. Everybody knows. So I won't belabor it. But by the time I was on the 12th floor of the hotel. I did that twice. It was a wrap on that. At my age, I'm making them down 12 times. We were lucky. We had filled our tub with water and it stayed. So with the little wastebasket, that gave us something to put into the back of the toilets. We were able to service ourselves. A lot of people didn't do it. They were warned to do it. I saw people taking their little buckets going down to the pool that by this time was brown. It was filled with whatever. But they would carry that water back up. And after a while, they didn't care about that anymore. The place was really getting a little rancid by the time we ended up getting out of there. But I have to say about Kathy Kennedy. Kathy Kennedy, her and her husband Frank Marshall are avid runners. She got up the next morning, and she ran to the airport. Over a fence, got down there, and they had shut it down. The government had basically taken it over. And it was only emergency flights now. So Kathy, stalwart lady that she is, talked her way onto a Salvation Army plane. Flew to Honolulu. From Honolulu, they had communication. And during the course of the day, we had ordered in a charter flight to pick up the crew, and Stephen's plane to pick up Stephen and some of the cast. She got to Honolulu, she finally found Stephen's plane, and then found out that somebody in the mix, and no one will cop to it, that somebody in the mix canceled the charter. So Friday was the day of the hurricane. Overnight that night, Saturday, was coming at 3 o'clock, didn't make it. Anyway, that day we got Stephen's plane in. We made 2 trips with his plane. And each time the plane was filled up with medical supplies. It's the only way the plane could land on the island. But we got Stephen's people, or we got the cast out, got them to Honolulu, went out another flight, put them all together, and they flew on to Los Angeles. Mark, another reason to be an actor. The rest of us were trapped. We finally got out Sunday night. They came, this guy, this security guy, Dick. So I sent one of our people out. My crew, my greensmen, had gone out with chainsaws. I don't know, it was 18 trees or something, had blocked the entrance to the hotel, had cut them and moved to the side so we could get vehicles out. By this time, so we had set up 2 points of radio communication with the airport. I found out that there was no plane. They didn't want us there anymore. Now they were getting concerned about liability. They didn't care. They were just evacuating to any common ground, just getting them someplace, but off their property. And I said to the guy, we're not moving until I know about our airplane. I got people here, little kids, at least they're in the shade. And we didn't. We left there. We finally left her. Our plane finally came in. Again, this was Kathy Kennedy. She found the guy in Honolulu that was Jocko in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Flew for Hawaiian Airlines. He brought a plane in, loaded everything she could find, $40,000 worth of supplies, then loaded all those supplies. And we had until dark. Got everybody lined up finally on the runway, raining like a son of a gun, soaking everybody. Nobody cared. And when we lifted off, we had all of our camera equipment, everything in that plane. And I was really nervous. When we took off the plane, the production manager, Paul Deason, was on the right side. He went, wow. I mean, wow. We just, and got over to Honolulu, dropped off all our Hawaiians, and then flew on to Los Angeles. You know, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent here, but it was interesting. Yes.
Two-part question. One, what are some of the things that you and Stephen do to make the atmosphere on the set conducive for the actors' performances? And two, when you finish something like Jurassic or Schindler's List, how much does Stephen have to change it to please the studio, or does he pretty much get director's cut?
The last half first, because it's simple. He's got total control. No one steps into the filmmaking process where Stephen's concerned. He has total freedom to do whatever he wants. The other part of the question, what do we do to make it nice, the atmosphere, for the cast you're talking about? Yeah. Gee. Actually, it's very simple. Each actor gets a dressing room. The more status, the nicer the dressing room.
With their private toilet.
Private area, yeah. I'll give you an example. When we were on Kauai, Jurassic Park, it gets very, very warm there in the summer. And that sun can get a little brutal. So the actors have no qualms about saying, shade. And I got very irritated, I won't get into any names, but very irritated with a couple of actors because of their pomposity, feeling that they were better than thou. The one actor that I learned to love and respect was a guy that I didn't like in anything I'd seen him in. That was Jeff Goldblum. He didn't do a thing for me. I didn't know why he even hired me. We were getting ready for the onslaught of the hurricane. Jeff Goldblum was sweating like everybody on the crew, carrying in water, carrying stuff, and constantly was coming to me, what else can I do? I would take him anywhere. Some of the others, sorry.
Hi. We want to get someone who has, yes, my friend, you've not asked a question.
It goes back to the money thing, but...
Been loud, they're straining in the back.
Two-part question. You have a lot of talk in professional sports about salary cap. Is that ever maybe going to apply in acting related to film industry? And secondly, on a film like that, who takes the brutal fall on a film that costs $14 million producing and elevated time, whatever,
40 plus.
And the elevated time,
oh boy, turn off the camera. I'll have you repeat the first part of the question. But the second one is a personal thing, because the guy that took the hit for that is a very, very good friend of mine. Sorry, I get a little emotional. It's ruined his career. Basically, he's having a tough time. He just executive produced Son of a Woman and something else since then. He's having a tough time getting a job because camera's off. Thank you.
not even up.
The people that were absolutely responsible found it easy to blame the line producer to take the heat off of it, which it doesn't really do. Anyone with any sense of intellect knows who's responsible. But to verbalize it in the town, and then for the studio to react and badmouth someone who fought to do it the proper way, I find insidious. It's one of the reasons why I try to get to Montana as often as I can. There are things, look, everybody is that way. I know, I'm sure. Because I only know the business I'm in, but there are things about it that I'm sorry to say I don't like. And that's really one of them, because the wrong guy took the hit. And the first part, I'm sorry, folks.
It might be an ignorant question, I don't know, but in professional sports, people talk a lot about salary cap. Where you put the salary under control, and that ever maybe applies to acting specifically?
Well, Brendan basically, he makes the final call on any of them. He works wonderfully with storyboards. And every one of those sequences were storyboarded. So it's easy for him to look at a storyboard, and then the people that he's dealing with, the other maven, the other geniuses like Dennis Muren. I think he's what, 7, 8, 9 Oscars now, and I'm sure he's going to get another one for Jurassic Park. But he's the guy, real great human being. There's this great big tall thin guy with kind of bald up here and long, strangly. He looks like the Mad Doctor. I mean, he's really not. He's just brilliant. And Stephen relies on him. Dennis calls him on the phone and says, look, this is what I did because Stephen usually sign off just on a phone call. But then Dennis has enough feeling and enough courtesy for Stephen to send him down so that Stephen can finally sign off on it. But Stephen controls it.
Is it hard to keep that kind of thing under budget?
Is it hard to keep it under budget? Well, I have nothing to go on because that's really the first film that we've dealt with that strongly with CGI. Let me say this, it was scheduled for 82 days. We did it in 7. Now, just rough numbers. If our daily cost was $100,000 a day, we're talking about $1.2 million in savings, right? As I mentioned earlier today, we ended up costing $59,500,000, just a little under. We maintained that because as we went along, and the computer graphics kept getting better, and some of the shots longer. The longer the shot, the more expensive. We used that same money that we were saving to pay for it. In the end, we delivered to the studio a negative for X, and they were totally happy. In fact, thrilled. Because I got to tell you what, I think Jurassic Park saved a lot of jobs at Universal. They have not had a camera off. They haven't had a great track record there.
Okay, Eric, go ahead.
I was going to ask a question regarding Schindler's List and the choice to make it black and white and also 3 hours long, which I believe is incredibly brave for a mass audience. And I know it's intended more as an artistic and a personal piece, but I was wondering what kind of decision brought about the black and white aspect, what kind of discussions went on, and also did you have to find out?
First of all, the decision to go black and white was strictly Stephen. Stephen knew from the time he wanted to start the movie, he was going to do it in black and white. Because Stephen also, who does nothing but look at film all the time, old documentaries, old movie tone news, actual film of what was there, so that he had a sense of what was happening. And the more he looked at it, the more he solidified the decision to go with black and white. Now, let's talk about the camera for a minute, because I wanted to bring him up earlier and I forgot to, because it's a very, very important thing for everyone in this room to understand. He picked a kid by the name of Janusz Kaminski. This kid came to America, he was 18, 19 years old, around 1980. And when he got here, he went, what a wonderful place. I mean, he just come out of this dark hole called Poland, what it was under communism. And he knew he wanted to get into film. But he also knew he needed to go to school. So he went to Chicago, film school, his degree as a cinematographer, and then started hanging around. And he went out the coast, and worked on some commercials, and then got a commercial, and then somebody got his reel to Stephen. So Stephen and Tony Thermopoulos, who's in charge of our television grant, hired him to photograph a 2-hour movie of the week called Class of '61. Stephen looked at it, thought it was brilliant, and decided then to hire Janusz. Never even asked him if he should shoot in black and white. Because of his background, having gone to school, he knew that he had that capability. And the guy did a marvelous job. The reason I bring this up is because here's a guy who came from a foreign country. And for some reason, foreigners who come to this country understand quicker than those of us who were born in this country at the opportunity. And they're not afraid to go out and try to make the opportunity for themselves.
What was your education? That's the first thing I want to ask you. The second one is, you talked a little bit about George Lucas's decision not to direct as well.
Okay, well, the first part of the question is real simple. I graduated from high school.
Where, Jerry?
Van Nuys High School, Van Nuys, California. Immediately went to the Marine Corps. Got married very young. Got out of the service. Immediately, my wife was pregnant. And my wife almost died. My son almost died. I found myself so far in debt I couldn't see. I was going to a little junior college in the Valley Junior College. I tried that twice. And both times because of the boss, that's really strange, the boss not too happy with the idea that I was going to school. So I took my schedule kind of interfered with it. I had no choice. I couldn't not work because of my own personal situation. I'll back up just a little. When I was in the Marine Corps, I had always had designs on being a lawyer. And when I was in the Marine Corps, I took courses through USAFI, which is the United States Armed Forces Institute, and the Marine Corps Institute. Mainly English and business. And that basically was it as far as any kind of formal education. Everything else has been overhearing a conversation about something I knew nothing about. So I go get the book, and I look it up. When I was a transportation coordinator, I knew I wanted to do something better, but I didn't want to burden anybody with my problems, so I went out and I got an old script. I went out and I bought myself a production board, strips, a header, and I went to the prop guy, and he Xeroxed a copy of a breakdown sheet for me. I didn't want the assistant director to even know what I was doing. So I went and I Xeroxed that, made a bunch of copies, and I took the script and I broke it down. No one showed me anything. I'd never even seen it done before. I'd never seen it board. I mean, finished, yes, but never in the process. And I did my own. It was beautiful. I made a lot of mistakes, but it was beautiful. I used colored pens, I did everything. That was my first one. And that was on a picture called Breakout. Didn't really show it to anybody. The next film that I did was 2 years later, Down for Glory. I read the script, and then I read the script, and then I read the script. And when I broke down the script, I mean, I could almost tell you what page the scene number was on. You give me a scene number, I can tell exactly what was in it. And I knew it as well as anybody else did. Then what I found myself doing, I would go to the production manager and I would say, Chuck, you know, we've got this day down here where we've got these 200 extras. We're going to have to bus it. And we got the day 3 days later, we have to do the same thing, which means we have to rehire and bring all those buses and Stockton. What if we changed that? What if we brought them, put the 2 days together? I say 2 nights lodging and all these guys, but great idea. You know why I didn't see it? This was the kind of a guy who went to the director, Hal Ashby, and said, Jerry Molen came up with a great idea. That was one of the greatest things he could have ever done for me. Because from that film on, when Hal Ashby went to do Coming Home, the second person he called was Jerry Molen. Not John Voight. I mean, I'm proud of this because my relationship and how it started out. Being there, that was the same thing. We worked together one time after that on a thing called Let's Spend the Night Together, which was Rolling Stones' little featurette that he was trying to do. And we never got back together. The sad thing is my life was going to his funeral. He was one of these guys that was so much into stuff in the body that's not meant for it. But he was a very talented guy. He was also a kid from Utah. Anyway.
Does that answer the question? Oh, the Lucas, why isn't Lucas directing?
That's choice. Just choice. He does his own thing. I think he's working on the second trilogy, Star Wars, which I think is the first 3. And he's also working very hard right now on Indy 4, working on developing the script and that. But he's very laid back, very casual, and a tremendous businessman. And he treats his people fantastic, like human beings. He's very generous with them, and they love him.
John, you've been trying. Go ahead. We need some of the women in the group again. Now, we had all these men. Let's show Mr. Molen the talent of our lady filmmakers. Now, John.
I'm noticing you talked a lot about your relationships, and I think that's the biggest key in this business, as far as I've been able to see. Where are your keys to facilitating relationships and creating not only a situation where you can work with these people, but as well as being, internal friends?
Did you hear that in the back? No. Once again, John, stand up and tell him.
I asked him about relationships and how, when I've gotten involved in the industry, it seems like those are the keys to what brings these great projects together. And I want to know how he facilitates these relationships and to create a relationship where they can work together as well as be friends forever.
Well, it's amazing. You pick your relationships. And I must say, we were talking about it once today. I don't socialize at all on any level with Hollywood. There are, telling Chuck today, or Dr. Bett today, at Chuck, at lunch. In December, we're having a little holiday open house at my house. There will be none of the so-called Hollywood elite because I don't want them there. 2 reasons. Number one, if they come there, they're the party. Talking about people that are famous. I've been to a couple of functions at their houses, and I feel like a wallflower because my relationship with them is business, and I like to keep it on that level. It makes it easier, and it makes it cleaner. And the relationships that I've established that way with Sidney Pollack, Steven Spielberg, well, I won't say. A couple other guys. Mainly because I don't care. But all those people, Tom Cruise, I have a wonderful relationship with some of these people. We talk all the time about life, about the kids. You gotta see my kid. But we never quite get there. We never quite get to lunch. The relationships are still there. You know, one wants to have him come help him show him how to do cheap movies. Tell the story. And this is a guy that's making.
Wants to do cheap movies.
Sure. Wants his, but so it's just a matter of nurturing the relationships, understanding the relationship, and how far you can go with the relationship. I think people that go too far with a relationship and try to get too far inside somebody's head makes their relationship short-lived. And that's part of the big problem in Hollywood today. Because you meet a lot of people who will say, "Oh yeah, I used to be a good friend." I don't want people saying that about me.
So what do we have to understand about relationship?
Then it's up to you. It's how do I say it? I don't know. I think you just have to. I don't know you, so I can't even relate to it. I don't relate to myself.
Well, what we're taught here is that we need to schmooze, and that's a big word. You need to pretty much kiss people's ass.
I was going to say that earlier, but I didn't want to say it about the class. I didn't think it was formal. I don't particularly agree with it.
But anyway, this is a very important point. Did you hear John's response down here in the back? Did you? Oh, we're okay now. We're understanding Mr. Molen's response now that he doesn't agree with that.
Let me tell you why I don't agree with it. Number one, I don't want someone around me that's going to schmooze me or KA. Because they get in the way. Because they don't know when to do it. And they will invariably pick the wrong time. I would rather have someone whose talents I will recognize. Come show me a better way. Follow through on an assignment. Not only expeditiously, but do it better than anybody else. I say it all the time. I pull people up all the time. I am a great backer of women in our industry. I'm a great backer of minorities working in the industry. I don't know why, because I think maybe they need the help. But I got to tell you what, my assistant Diana, if there's a problem, I want her to tell me what the problem is. I don't want her to be afraid that she's going to hurt my feelings or get out of sorts with me if she can't be honest. So I totally disagree with schmoozing. Getting to know people, absolutely. But there's two ways to do that. One is to allow people to recognize you for what you are and stand up for what you believe. That's what I think really people, I think for myself, I think that's why certain people have taken note of me before, because I'm my own person. I never scream. Oh, I won't say never. But I'm serious. I don't believe in it. I don't like it. I think it's counterproductive to yell at your employees. And I got to tell you something. I really think that they're teaching that in school today.
To yell?
Yeah. I see it in all these young kids now, young people who come out, and you give them an assignment, and they're in charge of 10 people, and they treat their assigned people like chattel. I mean, for me, it's sad. I mean, I'm an ex-Marine. I can be just as tough on somebody as I have to be. And in the Marine Corps, that's the way I was taught. But I also learned that I can get a heck of a lot more by treating people like I like to be treated than I can sprinkling people with vinegar.